Hello there, Erin here. Welcome to my craft room. Today we're going to take this beautiful Christmas layout design and completely transform it into something masculine, and I think you're going to love it. We're going to accomplish that with the gorgeous Seasons of Green and Gold paper, as well as the Latte Love collection. Now you're probably thinking, what is going on here? That's hurting my eyeballs. Hang tight, keep the faith, it's going to come together. I also have the Frosted Forest stamp and die set, as well as In the Grove. So let's go ahead and clear this out of the way. Now I won't be using all of these papers together, but if you've been hanging around for a while, you know that I have long been mentioning that this would be super cool for documenting my son's mountain biking races, as well as this paper here, and maybe even this one and the plaid. And then of course some of the greenery papers would be really, really neat. So with that in mind, I'm going to grab my Versamats here. This is going to be a double page just like this one. This is one of those layouts I've been kind of daydreaming and brainstorming about for quite some time, and the original idea was inspired by fellow crafter Leah. She shared a layout in my private customer appreciation Facebook group documenting some mountain biking photos, and she had a big tire in the center going across both pages, and I thought it was super cool. So looking at this inspiration with the inspiration from her design, I went and cut this tire out on my Cricut. Now I wanted one that's kind of beefy tread to represent mountain bikes, and I broke it when I pulled it off my Cricut mat. There I got 2 broken spokes, which would be really bad on, an actual mountain biking race, but in scrapbooking, we're going to camouflage that because it wasn't bad enough to cut another one. So that's going to go kind of like this. And what I'm going to do is actually butt these two together so that when I adhere it down, I can just cut that right down the middle. And we want it just a little bit onto the left-hand side. So you can see based off this design, we have some pattern paper going across the center, and then some scalloped detail, and then 3 clusters, and a title and a journaling block. This could be another photo. You could do lots of things. This is a 4x6 and these are 3x4s. You could put a flip flap here and include even more photos. So my idea is to use this paper. Now I kind of debated. These are from the Latte Love collection, and they are already cut into. Those are the opposite sides. Aren't the coffee beans cute? When I first saw this, I thought mud or just something, it kind of also reminds me of a trail map. Like if you're looking down and you've got the lines of the mountains and just kind of trails. So I'm leaning more towards this one, but this one's cool too because mountain biking can often be quite muddy. But let's go ahead and use this one. I took a 12x12 piece of paper and cut it directly in half. And I'm going to line that up at the 9 and the 3. And then using paper from the gorgeous Seasons of Green and Gold, I opted for this one because it just has a cool visual texture, and I don't know, I think that it's going to just be that grungy teenage boy look I'm going for. So these will sit right across the bottom. Now they're a little longer than I need them to be, so I might cut those down. And normally, like here, I've got the same patterns on the top and bottom. Well, my idea for this one is to make a landscape with a bunch of trees, which will bring the greenery up. I have 5 photos to include. One is a 4x6, the rest are 3x4s, and these are pro photographer shots of my son Hayden at different race venues during the 2023 race season. So I went ahead and bought these. They were worth every penny. I take photos, but unless you have fancy camera equipment, suitable for high-speed sports, then you just can't get cool shots like this. This one's my favorite. That's why I made it big. Isn't that just super epic? I love it. So what we're going to do is place the larger one here. Again, that's going to cover up those broken spokes. And then these just, get to go across the center here. And these two I'm going to place over here because he is kind of going into the frame. So I think I want these like this. And then we could bring in a journaling block or possibly have the title there. I mentioned earlier I'm envisioning like a row of pine trees up there and maybe this mountain stamp from In the Grove. There are a pair of pine trees on here and I think this is going to look good maybe here just to really kind of bring in that whole mountain feel. I also have the Forever Forest Stampin' die set, which I've used quite a bit and I do love it, but I recently picked up this little gem here. It's called Frosted Forest, and you guys, anything with a pine tree. So don't judge me. Yes, I pretty much collect all of the, tree related stamps, but these guys are like the cool kids in my craft room and we hang out all the time. They're really good friends of mine and I love them. So this one has, pine trees, but it also has this type of tree here, like more of a deciduous tree. And then there's some great sentiments. But what I love about this is the dies are amazing. So we have some standalone dies, or you can do the Stampin' die. So I'm going to do both. I'll create some of the stamps and die cut those out, and then the inner portion here. I don't think I'm going to use the mask, but this is really great for layering. You could even use this by itself, and you could put little like flocked snow on the trees. So many different things you could do with those, and they do fit right in the case. So if you want to store them all together, you can do that. But let me go ahead and die cut a whole bunch of these little guys. Oh, and there's these really cool bird stamps in here, or dies. There's a stamp too, but I think I'm going to incorporate those. I still need to create some of the stamped images, which I'll do here with you in just a moment, but you can see I'll put them on this paper so you can see it a little bit better. That's just the inner portion of the tree, or you can layer them like this, and Close to My Heart's two-tones cardstock is awesome for that. But those are two different ways you can use those, and of course there's two different sizes, and the smaller tree you can see is a little bit different of a pattern than this larger one. So they look really cool, just kind of mixed and matched together. But what I'm thinking is if we put the mountain kind of over here, we'll maybe have room on either side and then a little cluster here. Let's go ahead and stamp some of those trees. Now I am using the New England Ivy cardstock from Close to My Heart, but I am going to use that with a Mossy Meadow stamp pad here from Stampin' Up. So I think that we'll just stamp out this little guy for now. You can see I've already used him. I wanted to see what, it looked like stamped out. You just get excited to stamp with your new things. So we'll go ahead and create several of these because I might put some on the bottom. I'm not 100% sure yet. I still need to practice. It's stamping beautifully. You can see, look at the mess I'm making. And this is just me being used to a different type of woven pad. And you don't need to press down so hard when you're using these foam pads. So I'm going to give those just enough room to put my die around the edge there. And I just flipped it upside down to save paper, but it's very, very pretty. So I'll go ahead and die cut those out. Let me line that up and I'll be right back. So now I have lots of tree ephemera to create my little scene, and I'm roughly placing these for now. I do want to keep that center open for the mountains, so we'll just kind of set that little guy there. And then using my mountain range from In the Grove, I want to have this layered behind my pattern paper. I don't want it too high. So I'm going to scoot my pattern paper down and then draw a pencil line so I know exactly where to stamp this. So now I can just move these out of the way. I'm going to stamp this in black to complement my tire image. So we'll get this nice and inky, make sure we have nothing on the edge, line it up with our pencil mark and press down, hope for the best, and perfect. So I can scoot that back up and then I'll bring all of my trees back in. Now the original mountain biking design from Leah, she used the Change of Scenery collection. So I went ahead and got my scraps out that I have left from that paper pack and found these little branding strips with the arrows. And I'm a big fan of using arrows on, outdoor adventure type layouts and masculine pages, so I think that this is going to be perfect. Luckily I didn't use glue to adhere that. I used tape runners, so you can pry it up with your little spatula there. And I think that the lightness of this strip is just kind of a nice pop against the darker color pattern papers. I have a bunch of these journaling spots that I keep on hand. These are Cricut cuts, and they coordinate with the art booking collection from the Take Note Cricut bundle. This is an oldie but goodie from close to my heart, and you can stamp the lines on here, which is how I typically use it. There is the image, the Cricut image number. If you guys have this in your stash and you forgot about that, I'll put it in the description box below too. But rather than stamp the lines, I kind of have a lot to say, so I think that I want to type on this. So I'm going to show you a little tip on how to run this through your printer and get your text aligned perfectly. So I think we're going to do maybe something like that, or you know what, I may put it in the middle, but let's go ahead and get this typed up first, and then we can see where we want it to live on the layout. So we need to measure it. I've got a little ruler here, and I don't want my text all the way to the top, so I am only going to, I figure it can start right there and maybe end there. So I can't go any more than 3 inches, and then probably 2 inches wide. So 2 by 3. So I have a MacBook Pro, so I'm in Pages. You could use Microsoft Word, but we're going to go up to Insert and insert a text box. Now we can make this any size we want. So we wanted it, would we say 2 inches wide by about 3 inches. So we're just literally going to drag and drop until we get this where we want it. And then you can position this anywhere on the screen. Now you just want to type up your text, and you can change the font and the size of the text to help it fit within the confines of your text box if need be. I do have a very helpful journaling tips video. If you have not caught that, I will leave that listed in the description box below. And I mentioned this tip but didn't actually show it in the video, so I wanted to kind of follow up because I still get questions on it. So I'm just kind of hemming and hawing over what I want to write, changing that a little bit, and I think I'm just about done. Once you are happy with your story and you've read it maybe 10 times over to make sure you don't have any spelling errors, because there's nothing worse than finding it after you've glued down your journaling box, you want to go ahead and print this. Now, we're not printing it on anything special. I am printing that on a sheet of printer paper. So we've run that through our printer, and now we can line up our journaling box. Now, if you have a pocket cards and you want to print on pocket cards, this is exactly how you would do that. So you can see the outline through this printer paper, and I'm going to use a pencil to mark the edges of this, and it will help me get the placement perfectly. So now you want to use a removable adhesive. These are removable glue dots. These are the same glue dots that I like to secure my paper to my Versamats with. And then line this up within those marks that you made, and then run it through your printer again. If your printer has the capability for a rear slot where it doesn't have to make the bend coming from the tray, I highly recommend you choose that option. Now we can peel back our draft here, and then our text is perfectly placed on our little journaling card here. So I'm opting to place my journaling in the center block here. Now, if you look at the original design, the main focal photo here has extra mats around it. I've used glitter paper on the Christmas, which we're not going to do here, but I thought maybe some of the wood grain. So let's just try some of these options. Don't like that against the background. Maybe a lighter wood grain. This is just a scrap, but it'll give us an idea. That's okay. That's not bad. What if we just went with green? This is the New England Ivy, the same paper that I cut all of my little trees from, and I like it. I feel like it just really pops the photo from the background. Let me straighten that little guy. It's probably hard to pick up on camera, but I ran my photo mat through my embossing machine using this metal plate 3D embossing folder. So I just thought this was a really cool masculine texture. Now my photo mat is larger than the actual embossing folder. So I kind of had to move it around, try to line up the pattern, and I wasn't able to do so. However, I mean, it's gonna work. So if you look closely, there's kind of where it doubled up and you can see weirdness in the pattern. But isn't that cool? still, and I'm gonna sand it so we bring out a little bit more of the detail. And by the time you get the photo on and you're just seeing the edging, you're not going to notice those imperfections, and I think it'll be a cool touch when we add some sanding to that. So let's go ahead and do that. And I do want to say I just watched, I was attending Brandy from Brandy's Cards. She had her Creativate retreat and she created a project mixing a very feminine stamp set with this diamond plate, metal plate embossing folder, and I thought the contrast was so cool, and it was really inspiring to kind of think outside of the box and try different things. Mixing the super, kind of soft with the ruggedness of the diamond plate was just awesome. So let's go ahead and move this so we're not sanding over my workspace, and then we'll just kind of bring out these details with our little sanding nail file here. If you have a sanding block, it kind of works better for large areas like this, but we'll just go around the edges because that's really all that's going to be visible. Let me speed this up for you so you don't have to watch me sanding this in real time, but I love how it's just bringing that pattern out, and I think it's going to look really cool behind the photo. Even though this photo is printed with a white border, having this second photo mat really makes it pop. Now for embellishments, we have all of this cool stuff up here with the trees and the mountains, but I also turned to my, what I call my boys stamp category, and pulled a bunch of stamps that might just have little things on them, like the word awesome, just cool. There's more of that diamond plate, a stamp that kind of matches that stencil. This one says the scenic route. So anyway, I just kind of pulled all these out. That was so awesome. The arrows here, there's just so many different things. Here's a BMX life, which I might use some of these, but this is going to give me lots of good stuff to create with. There's some more, words, so rad, live life, awesome, cool, super epic, definitely appropriate phrases. And then this one is see you at the finish line. So start to finish, go the distance, live to race. So I could definitely add in some of those. So lots of goodies here. And then I still need a title. And then I also pulled out these. I was in Hobby Lobby and just couldn't help myself. I found these. They were 50% off, and they are from the Paper Studio, and they're outdoor die cut stickers, or not stickers, just die cut kind of chipboard type things. So I use outdoor stuff so often. I just kind of picked these up, and I pulled this one out. It says wild, brave, and free. And I really feel like that fits this. And if you look closely, there's orange in the boundary tape. And then also the forks in Hayden's bike here are orange. So there's some bits of orange, and I thought that might be a cool accent color to kind of bring into this. So this is definitely inspiring me to bring in some orange. For a title, I thought Let's Take the Scenic Route might be fun. This is from a recent stamp set called Lake Life, which did sell out, but I know a lot of you may have this in your stash. So I want to mimic our little piece of ephemera there. And what I'm thinking, let me get this attached to the door of my Misty, bring in a piece of white daisy paper, and I want to make sure I have enough room. I'm going to die cut it with this. That looks good. So what I want to do is use two different color inks. I've got Sapphire and Nectarine, which match this perfectly. So we're going to mask off the upper and lower portion and just ink up the word scenic using the Nectarine ink color in the center here. This is really good to use up all of those bits of washi tape that are just hanging around your craft room. And I'm going to probably re-ink this, so I'm sticking it to my shelf in front of me, pushing down, and then, yep, I definitely want to re-ink that one more time. So we'll reposition our tape, just blocking off those lower and upper words again. And you've probably seen me do this numerous times on my channel, but just customizing the color scheme really is a fun way to use your stamp collection and make it work perfectly for your layout. So now you want to clean it off really well. Remove all of that ink, and we'll mask off just the center. I want to make sure I am using a clean piece of washi tape. If you don't have washi tape, you can use like Post-it removable tape or even Post-it notes to mask off your images. So now I'm switching to the sapphire color. We'll get this nice and inky, remove our center mask, and then we'll stamp this down. to get our two-toned look. And usually with sapphire, I don't have to ink it up twice. And yeah, that's looking pretty good. So I love it. Where's my little, oh, there it is. Doesn't that look perfect together? So I'm going to die cut this out with this die here. And I'm thinking of building a little cluster kind of over here underneath the title. And then this one maybe on the diagonal up across. My friend Bonnie that I traveled to Alaska with just recently created a layout using these birds flying around her pine tree. It's from the Frosted Forest stamp set. And I'm like, I have to repeat that. It looked really cool. So I just die cut a couple birds. I chose the die cut option rather than stamping them. And then this is called Textured Timber. And I stamped the log round. That does not have coordinating dies, but it's very easy to cut out. And, you know, this is almost covering up. I don't know if I'm happy with the title. It just looks rather blocky and stuck there. Let's try something. I can always stamp it again and die cut it again if I decide that this was a mistake. But I'm thinking we might be able to piece this out. So I'm getting some straight lines with my little guillotine trimmer, and then I'm going to actually trim around the word scenic. And let's try this, and we can kind of stagger them a bit. I thought about obvious title choices for this layout, like 2023 race season, but I opted for the scenic route because I thought it was fun. Now this says ride like you mean it from the race stamp set. I wanted something over my cluster. I'm not 100% sure about that, but we'll let it kind of hang out there for just a moment. I want a little bit more of the nectarine color, so I stamped this sun. I actually flipped it over and stamped it twice to get a whole sun. And I thought maybe this could bring it in, the color in, but it looks a little funny. Sometimes you just have to try things, and I don't love it. I don't love it. Let's try a little nectarine file tab, but coming out the top of the journaling. These are a couple faux wood grain paperboard arrows. That looks cute. We could go with that maybe. So I did have to step away from this layout for a bit. This part all came together so easily, but for whatever reason, I was just struggling with finishing this top corner here. So I changed a few things, and I had the tab here with an arrow over it. I stamped the word epic and moved it to the outside edge. And then I wanted my sun behind the mountain range. So what I did, don't laugh at me, I stamped another one. Yes, it was, quite a bit of work, but it paid off because I love the way the sun is tucked underneath there. So I stamped it on a scrap piece of almond cardstock and then fussy cut that out and layered it over the sun. And then these little sprigs here are also from the Frosted Forest Stampin' die set. It is, you have a large one here, but those are from this little tree line border, and I just cut out the bits and pieces and tucked them in. And I quite like how that turned out. And then Ride Like You Mean It, I did have that up here because I wanted something kind of over this embellishment cluster, but it just looked out of place to me. So I trimmed it down and attached it to this lower portion of the photo. So it's still included on the layout. I really like it, but it's a little bit more subtle, and your eye has to kind of, find that little nugget of crafty fun right there. Let me push that together so you can get the full effect, and then we'll bring this layout back in so you can see how we have taken this gorgeous Christmas scrapbook layout design and fairly easily, well, the paper part was easy. It was easy up until that last little corner, but easily transformed it into a masculine design. And I love it. I really, really love it. And as I mentioned, this would be so good for hiking photos. You could just it doesn't have to be a bike tire. You could just have a circular element here and put hiking photos all across. And I think that would be a really beautiful layout also. So lots of inspiration went into this layout, from the Christmas design to Leia's mountain biking layout to Bonnie's Alaska layout using the birds. So if you were inspired, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. And if you're looking for more outdoor type layouts, then watch this one right here.